Lehman Brothers, Goldman Sachs, false flag, terror attacks, Bill Gates, Henry Kissinger, New World Order, mind control, Bank of America stealing homes with cut and paste mortgage loans, police, state, taser guns, FEMA camps, man to run, Monsanto rules the food supply while Big Pharma dopes your mind, prison system, puppeteers, foundations, fund the fears, fund the evil through the years, the world's not as it appears. CIA smuggles drugs while Wachovia and Wells Fargo launder them, then give the proceeds to the owners of the Federal Reserve Bank. Now the IRS takes money out of every single check. Money created out of thin air and leave you with debt. They want to make you a serf, a slave to their demand. They want to take your life in every way they can. Fluoride, GMO, vaccines, chemtrails, United Nations genocide. The world they show us is not real. This is how they kill and steal. Rothschild, Bundy, Rockefeller, Club of Rome. On the Georgia Guidestones, it's written in stone. Cut through the matrix, awaken to the lies. Do not be hypnotized. We are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And believe it or not, our stream was lost. Harry couldn't see us even though I'm broadcasting, so I started a new stream. Your video is not coming back yet. Oh, there it is. There you are. I guess they didn't like what we were talking about. Harry, can you check to see if we're live?
I'm looking at your stream, and it's showing videos, like your background type videos, and checking the audio. It's just playing your background kind of stuff.
That's unbelievable. That's incredible.
Okay, they're saying in the chat that you're live, so I guess some people can see us and some can't.
It doesn't make any sense.
In the chat, can you hear us in the chat, guys? Please tell us if you can hear us or not.
I can hear you guys fine.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, I see everything in here.
Oh, you're watching the show in another window? Because you can watch, open a window with Truth Broadcast Network and watch the stream. That's what. Anyway, all right. So we're wasting time on that. I'm glad you're back, Fritz. A little technical faux pas. I'll try to fix it all together later on. But we were talking about these mind control, the very MK Ultra-esque occurrences. Again, over periods of time. You were saying, like, for example, Columbine. You can even reckon to say the children in the schools, and then they made a movie about Basketball Diaries and all these connections to it. And then the other day it was the assassination of John Lennon, the anniversary, and you look back at that, and this guy he was attacked by COINTELPRO, under constant FBI surveillance, and a whack job knocks him off. So all of these Sirhan, it's like all these same type of individuals. It can't be a coincidence that they're all under the same type of, like, I don't know what I did, or I don't know what I did, or I don't, remember, or they come up with...
Most of them are ex-military also, aren't they?
Yeah, that's true.
Right, and look at Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, is it a minor fact that he worked for the CIA? No, it isn't a minor fact. And yet... it just kind of glossed over like, oh, well, he was just a nutcase. What? The guy worked for the CIA. Well, there's something bigger involved here. We need to really look at these things. And then, they covered up the Kennedy assassination conspiracy, but then years later, Congress came back and had to publicly admit that there had been a conspiracy. But a lot of people haven't caught up with the facts. They're still on the page of the Warren Commission. which was just a whitewash.
Absolutely, it was a complete fabrication, like the 9/11 report. Same thing.
Right.
Same thing. Incredible.
So, since we talked last, we've both experienced extreme climate. My experience was I took a trip back to the Midwest. Kansas in the Midwest was having the worst drought that they had ever had. And then you guys had your worst storm, they say, in about 100 years with Sandy, Hurricane Sandy.
That's right.
So, you guys were right in the middle of it all, weren't you?
Yeah, we got hit a little bit here in Connecticut. The shoreline took quite a bashing, but Long Island got very bad.
I was 2 blocks away from the shoreline. It was pretty bad. The whole house was shaking, but I guess we kind of got lucky in Lower Connecticut because the path, I guess, went in towards Jersey Shore, and then it went all the way up through the state, like even to like upstate New York. It went extremely inland, which a hurricane usually doesn't go that far inland, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, there were a number of things, weren't there, strange about that. According to a lot of people, that these hurricanes, they'll follow the warm water up the coast, but they won't go over cold water. And it was outside of normal hurricane season, and it's not normal for a hurricane to come up like that at all. What are you guys' take on that? Because you guys experienced it firsthand.
Well, it's been very strange. Just about 2 weeks prior, or maybe a little more than that, there was an earthquake in Maine. So things have been shaking here. My building shook in Connecticut, where I work. You could feel it. The earth shook. Poles in the ground, the telephone poles, slanted. It was an earthquake. That doesn't happen very frequently
Makes you think of HARP, right?
It totally makes me think of HARP. And then again, the same thing with all these storms from Katrina on. The whole idea of, and then you got the Gulf Coast disaster. If you're in the know about the way these people operate and what their agenda is, they want to destroy the coastlines. They want to destroy the capacity for people to make a living, and they want to consolidate the land and put it all in this Agenda 21. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, let's not forget FEMA and
yes.
their whole involvement.
FEMA and all the. That's my spin on it.
What was FEMA doing during all this?
They actually responded pretty well in most areas except for Staten Island. Again, Staten Island became the lower 9th ward of this storm. So you had that same nobody paid attention to Staten Island, and people were talking about having the New York Marathon. Thank God they didn't. The wiser minds came to cancel the marathon, but Mayor Bloomberg was going to have the marathon, for what? For morale? Their bodies floating around in the tunnels, It's terrible. And it's really a lot worse than they reported. I know that for a fact.
Also, to add to it is the amount of time that people had to go without power. Talking to family members, parents, that, people who grew up in the 60s and 70s, when the power went out, they never even had to, even in the 60s and 70s, wait more than, 2-3 days. And the fact that my family and people waited about 2 weeks. I know my sister, it was like a month, and there's still some people that don't have power, which is amazing to me since we're so technologically advanced.
It's because the homes, a lot of the homes, they can't power the homes because they've been damaged, so the electric can't go to the house. So there are thousands of people. In New York City, 40,000 people, Fritz, 40,000 people were displaced by this storm, have no place to live. And they're not talking about it at all. It's there. You can Google it and get the information, but no one will speak of it. And they're in FEMA trailers in northern New Jersey. That's where they are. Oh, losing Fritz again.
I'm seeing it.
Okay.
We are losing him.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, let's keep talking about this, and he'll.
Yeah, when we get him back, let's get to some serious questions. Too,
oh yeah, we're just shooting the breeze a little.
Yeah, looking at the incidents without power in New York City and the FEMA camp, I guess, in New Jersey. I mean, that's a good thing to bring up, Vinny, because they say to capitalize on a crisis, and it seems to me like this is human experimentation going on here. Let's see what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I got one of the members in We Are Change, Alec, who hopefully will be calling in later. His family's in Long Island, and he's the one who's been telling me a lot about Long Island, and Long Island was hit really hard, and he has a lot of stories, and hopefully he'll be calling in later to talk about that, because I know FEMA went and he said cut a check and gave his sister a little bit of money. He has some stuff to say about FEMA and what's been going on down there.
They weren't much better than they've been in the past. I mean, they certainly had more of a spotlight on them too.
Yeah, well, they could the people they help are always going to sit there, and when they think of FEMA, are going to think that they're good people. Like let's say the Red Cross or something. But if anybody looks into the Red Cross,
I got Fritz back. Fritz, you there? Can you hear me? Are you back?
Am I back, guys?
Yeah. Okay. Listen, guys. I don't know why. Now it's very weird. You dropped off, and now, all right. I'll be able to add them. Oh, good. You're the only one on. They dropped off. Okay, I can add them again. I think we're getting a little bit of hokey pokey going on here, Mr. Springmeier. Let's see. Add people to the call. Get them both back. And. Yeah, I think FEMA has done a better job, but again, they still fail. There was no need for this type of. It's not. Come on.
Well, my connection is showing real good with Vinny, Howard, and you're coming loud and clear, but I'm not seeing Fritz on here.
Yeah, I'm with Fritz right now. I'm looking right at him.
Can you hear me?
I hear you fine, Fritz. Let me get.
We don't have him.
Huh?
Vinny and I don't have Fritz.
All right, why don't you hang up? Both of you guys hang up, and
Do you have me now?
Let me add you to this other call. Maybe there's another call here. I don't know what happened. Let me do it. All right, hang up. Right. Okay. Yeah, Fritz. I don't know. Yeah, I have you. You're fine. You got back. I think that what happened is when we lost your call, I was trying to call you and you answered, but then they were on the other line. Just mayhem. Okay. We'll get this going.
Persevere.
We certainly will. Okay.
Now, picking up the conversation where I was at.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to the Midwest this summer, they were having their worst drought that they've ever had. There were fields that were being irrigated by the centripetal sprinkler systems. Those are quarter-mile systems they've got pivot points and towers and pipes on top of the towers, and they go around in circles. So if you're flying over where these centripetal sprinkler systems are irrigating, you'll see these quarter sections of land that are green circles, when you're flying over. Well, the drought was so bad that even the circles that were being irrigated, the crops had dried up. Now, what bothered me is that I know that in 1975, they came out with a Public Law 94490, which established the Weather Modification Board. And there's been all kinds of companies, U.S. military, NASA has been funding research into weather modification. When United States and USSR have made treaties, why they've discussed weather modification assets, because they know that each side has military assets to modify the weather. With all these billions and trillions of dollars that have been spent for 25, 30 years of the taxpayers' dollars to create these weather modification means, and then you have the worst drought ever and you never hear one squeak from the U.S. government about how they're going to try to alleviate the problem. Now, if that doesn't, to me, that smacks of they wanted this to happen. If they hadn't wanted it to happen, they would have been scrambling left and right to try to modify the weather with all of the capabilities that they have created. But no, they let this horrendous drought occur. In fact, based on the kind of things that I was learning in the 1990s and deprogramming people, and also listening to what they were telling me about the Illuminati agenda, I would go so far as to say they created it somehow, that they modified the weather to bump up the drought to make it worse. And that's what I'm suspecting about this storm, this Sandy hurricane, is, after I talked with you guys, and you were telling me that, that the place that has all of the sensors to monitor HAARP, that they had never seen the intensity that HAARP was putting out over the East Coast when Sandy hurricane hit. In other words, they had HAARP cranked up full blast.
Oh yeah.
So there's a big connection there, and I know people are the normal person's going to laugh and say, "Oh, that's just conspiracy theory," and we got Sandy did just what it was expected to do. I don't know how they could say Sandy did it just as it was expected to do, since no storm has ever done this before. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I mean, that doesn't make sense.
How can people? It's also a repeat. It's happened over and over again. First, they'll flood an area, then they'll drought an area, and this is what they've been doing. What about they blew up the levees to flooded like 100,000 acres of farmland a couple of years back? I mean, this is it's intentional. They're trying to destroy our ability to be self-sufficient, I guess, maybe is
I'd like to add in the theory about Monsanto, where Monsanto's got the patent, like these genetic manipulations to the crops to where they're resistant to pesticides and probably could grow in drier or worse conditions, where organics are probably going to have a problem growing in this. So do you think that maybe Monsanto probably has a little bit to do with the chemtrails and causing a food shortage or something?
I wouldn't disagree with that. What I have found is when you have something like 9/11 happen, you'll have maybe a dozen different agendas going on at the same time. So, just because the primary reason that they have done something is X, Y, and Z doesn't mean that there aren't some other agendas tacked on that they can benefit from. And that they're always looking for a profit.
That's for sure.
At our expense.
Get your camera there fixed, Vinny. Let me ask you this, Fritz, because we know that these people in the New World Order, they think that they are, or they're trying to become literally God. I mean, is all this weather manipulation, could it be an ego trip for them, or part of their ascending to become God? Does that play into it at all?
Well, it definitely goes along with their mindset. They've been thinking that they were gods for thousands of years, so they don't need to modify the weather and create Sandy to have that ego trip. They've been on that ego trip for thousands of years. That's why people in Babylon and Egypt are worshiping him as God. That's why the Caesars were worshipped as gods. That's why the King Louis was worshipped as God. These people have been receiving homage for a long time. But it definitely goes along with their attitude that the rest of us are like ants, and to cause the havoc and the suffering that they caused in Hurricane Sandy, and it's not going to bother their conscience at all, because these are the same kind of people that the same group of people that created World War I and World War II. And you go to World War I and study some of the battles, and you go to World War II and study some of the battles, and there were battles that were fought in both wars that were senseless wastes of life. They had no strategic value. There were no tactical value. There were just some general decided that they would have a battle, and both sides would convene their armies, and some of these battles that were very costly in lives went almost basically unreported. For instance, Patton stormed the German fortresses at Metz, and there's almost a total news blockout of that entire battle. It's gone for many decades without people even realizing it, and yet more American soldiers died at Metz than they did in the Normandy D-Day invasion. And it was a senseless. It was a battle that had no reason to be fought.
Well,
so
let me ask you this, because we know Hitler underwent the Luciferian initiation, and he said that our losses can never be great enough. I mean, aren't we really talking about people literally being sacrificed? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah,
I think they need the souls. Yes, they need the energy, right?
Yeah, there's also that religious aspect of it, but they're definitely. I know firsthand from people that are in the best positions to be informed that the Illuminati wants to destroy the U.S. economy. And, I was in frequent conversation with friends on the East Coast before Hurricane Sandy, and all along the East Coast, people were telling me, Fritz, we're not having economic troubles. There's no recession here. The economy's booming. Well, that was true until Sandy hit. Of course, the people that have to rebuild will be doing well. Companies that are selling material to rebuild will do okay, but the rest of the economy up there has been significantly stressed.
Oh yeah.
And all those companies will have to deal with the insurance companies, so it'll have to be certain big businesses that are. It's all about friends, because that's actually one field I'm in, is the construction and roofing and all that. And it's another thing about connections and about insurance companies.
Well, right. I know last time that you were interviewed by Howard, Fritz, you gave a little mention about John Todd, and we have someone in the chat who's also asking about John Todd. Can you speak to that for a moment?
Yes. I'll give more of a lengthier answer here. I don't know how many of our listeners are familiar with the subject of John Todd, so I will open up and give more of a middle answer on this. I had done thousands of hours of research into the Illuminati. I had started working with people that had been Illuminati members, or actually it turned out some of them continued in membership that they hadn't really gotten out. And so I had a wealth of understanding about this organization. And when I listened to John Todd's tapes, he spoke in the 1980s, and I got a hold of those. I got a hold of tapes of his talks in the 1980s, in 1990, 1991. And when I listened to him, I realized this man knows what he's talking about, because he's hitting point by point things that had taken me hundreds and thousands of hours to learn. And he was just going boom, 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 boom. And And then also another thing that helped me give him credibility was that it was obvious he was a program multiple personality, and the Illuminati in their mind control their own people program multiple personalities. When he would be giving public talks, and sometimes he would get confused as to who his parents were, or he would get confused on other facts that a normal person wouldn't. And his detractors would use this against him and say,
What happened? We lost Fritz again. Oh, problem with the call. Okay, they're smacking Fritz's Skype because you guys are there. All right, we'll film.
It's just Fritz.
Yeah, I know it's only Fritz.
Maybe we should just have him. Maybe we should not have him enable the video, and then it might work fine.
I don't know. Could be.
Yeah, I think it's a if it's a bandwidth issue, it'll work fine if he does not enable the video. If he still has problems, then it's not his internet it's his bandwidth that's they're messing with it.
Okay, good point.
You want me to take my video off and keep his on, or
it's not going to affect us.
Wouldn't affect it.
It
wouldn't affect it.
All right, he dropped off. Let me add him to the call again.
And we apologize for the technical difficulties, but this is kind of comes with the territory.
It sure does. It's guerrilla entertainment, guerrilla information. Okay, let's see if we can get him back here.
as soon as I come back on, let me know, guys.
If you cut out again, then just don't enable your camera, and maybe it'll hold the feed.
Okay, so when he had problems with being consistent about who his parents were and things like this, that to me gave him more credibility. Where his detractors said, "Oh, the guy's totally unreliable," that showed me that we're dealing with the program multiple personality, which is exactly what we would expect if we were dealing with someone who was genuinely Illuminati. So I started researching, where can I find him? And what had happened is that he had been framed and sent to prison. And there was only one couple, as I remember, they were in Minnesota. There was only one Christian family that had continued supporting him. All of his Christian support had evaporated, and he had been abandoned. And so through them, I was able to find out where he was in prison. I started writing him, sending him money.
And remember, you guys can call in and ask questions. We're going to open the lines in a little bit. The call-in number 347-609-0911, or you can Skype truthbroadcastnetwork.com. Looks like we're getting him back.
He's coming.
We're going to do this on the installment plan.
Yeah, it looks that way. It looks like I'll just have to cut it into. I'll put it all together at the end, Fritz, for a rebroadcast. But importantly, I think maybe if you disable your camera it might help. Maybe it's a streaming issue, or they're just messing with you. Well, let's just see if you can do that. So
if you turn your video off, it shows a still photo of you, and then maybe you won't get cut off. So I would try that if I were you.
let's try that, Fritz.
Well, we'll do that. I don't think that it's a video problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think that even if I turn off the video, we're going to get cut off.
Oh, I see.
We'll try it.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and try it that way.
Sure.
Okay. You can still hear me?
I hear you, and
you
hear you loud and clear. I'll just change the framing here, and you're good. Okay.
Because we should not have a streaming problem, because my broadband is able to carry plenty of
Oh, I see. Then they're messing with you specifically, not us. Although originally they affected the stream. We weren't getting broadcast. Somehow there was a problem with it. But whatever. I mean, obviously it's just a waste of time to talk about that. But COINTELPRO just are relentless. Okay, Fritz. So John Todd.
Okay.
Program multiple, family. That's credibility, because he didn't remember his family. That's where we were at.
So I started helping him in prison, making phone calls, talking with him one-on-one. He managed the amazing feat, and how he pulled this off, I don't know, but he managed to get from someone a tape recorder and a blank set, and he made a tape and sent it to me, where he recorded how they had framed him and set him up and everything. And I transcribed it using a dictaphone. And then we had that kind of a relationship for, I don't know, maybe a year. And then we lost contact with each other. And I was given the disinformation that he had been killed. But it turns out that what they had done is they had taken him, and they had given him a new trial where they said that he had done all this pedophilia, and they gave him a horrendous amount of time and sent him off quietly to a special prison for sexual offenders, where he spent the rest of his time. And then he died don't quote me exactly, but it's been in the last 2 or 3 years. Maybe 3 years ago, he died. It turns out that someone reliable found out that he did finally die in prison. So that's what happened to John Todd. But the material that he this talks and things are up on the internet, and people continue to have some of his written materials and the cassettes of his talks. And so what he did now belongs to the world, and whether he's gone or not, it continues. And just like I think it's really funny that they put me in prison, and you would think that would shut me up. And yet my work continued, because it belongs to the world. And while I was sitting there caged like an animal, my work continued to go forth. And I was getting wider coverage during that time period than I had when I had been out.
It's true. And again, I think that it's a testament to the fact that the truth is, people are starting to get fully aware, whether or not it's fully accurate information from all different sources. People are seeking out knowledge, and when they hear Illuminati, 10 years ago, nobody knew what that was. 15 years.
That's actually a question I wanted to ask Fritz Howard. Is Fritz, what would you say is the difference now, like from before you went to jail to now that you're out? What would you say is the difference you notice in the people around you?
Well, okay, I'll divide that up into several different sections. If we look at the younger generation, when they hear the word Illuminati, they laugh because they think it's their word. They all know the term. They may not understand how horrible these people are or what their agenda is, their genocidal agenda for us.
Mm-hmm.
But they are familiar with the term and that it touches on the occult and there's symbology like the all-seeing eye and the pyramid. So we've gone from the younger generation not knowing the word to everybody practically in the younger generation knows it. And if we look at the Christians, 20 years ago, you would be hard-pressed to find any Christian who would even accept the word or the term or the concept. Well, when I got out of prison, I went to a gathering of Eagles prayer session, which was a week long, where we had 200 prayer warriors that got together and prayed against the power structures of the Illuminati for a whole week. And I was just quietly in the audience. They didn't know who I was, or else they...
Oh, no. We lost him again. We're also joined by Jeff Watala of the American Dissident here on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. He does a show at 8 p.m. on Saturdays after We Are Change Connecticut. How are you, Jeff?
Oh, I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Excellent. We'll get Fritz back again. We've been dealing with these little segments, but what can I tell you? They're getting on his case there. Fritz, are you back? Looks like he might be back. Oh.
Well, while we're waiting on Fritz to come back, I know Jeff himself has done 2 broadcasts on mind control. Can you talk about that a little bit, Jeff?
Well, yeah, I did some research into MK Ultra, and years back I come across a tape done by Dr. Stephen Jacobson on mind control, and I used it in broadcast a couple of weeks ago, and it's pretty conclusive what they're able to do and what they're able to accomplish. To the extent that they were able to accomplish it nationally or internationally, I can't say for certain, but I've been doing some digging into like the new HD TVs where they've enabled technology to broadcast messages right through the television set.
Wow.
So it's there.
It is there. I heard about that. That's crazy. They actually had something on television about this, like a usage that they want for like game friendliness. It's weird. All right, we're back with Fritz Springmeier, and I got Jeff Watala from American Dissident, Harry Link of Death to the New World Order. It's a Truth Broadcast Network. It's everybody here, and Vinny Be the Truth. Vinny Be the Truth of We Are Change Connecticut, and of course we're joined by Fritz Springmeier. Fritz, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Are you back? Did we lose you again? Oh, this is unbelievable.
Maybe we should have him.
Hello, guys.
Oh, yeah, yes, Fritz. We're okay. Okay, guys.
Okay.
Excellent. So just keep going. We'll just take off where you were. I'll make cohesiveness of this later.
Okay, I will go ahead and leave off the video in the hopes that maybe we get some better audio. Everybody knows what I look like anyway. Now, prime my pumping. What should I be discussing?
We were going again. Now we were joined by Jeff Watala of the American Dissident here on TruthBroadcastNetwork.com, and he does a lot of research with documents. He shows documents on air, and has been doing research with the MK Ultra and the mind control. So he probably has a few interesting questions for you, Fritz. Jeff, what would you like to ask Fritz?
Well, I would like to ask him, I've got a copy of your book, and it's real interesting reading. How are you able to connect all of these families together, even down, like in the Bundy family, where you're able to connect Ted Bundy with the other Bundys and the Hinckleys with the, I guess you could say, the higher-up Hinckleys. How long did that take you, and where did you have to go in order to find that information?
Great question, Jeff, and I'm sure as soon as Fritz comes back and we'll get it answered. Okay, here he is. He's back. Okay. Let me get him back there. Okay. This is insane. Insane.
Well, Howard, I think what you might have to do is talk to him on a cell phone and just put it on speaker and put it by your mic, and that should be stable.
We could do that. That's one other option. Let me just add him again. It's unbelievable. Maybe he can call in, phone call in, and we'd have to. I'd have to hide his. Fritz, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, all right. So they're messing with the Skype. They're obviously messing with our Skype, and Jeff Watala had asked a great question for you, but I'm thinking that if this occurs again, maybe what you can do is call the station, and we can add you as a regular phone call. This way they can't interfere with the phone number is 347 for anybody also that would like to call and ask.
Just a second, you'll have to repeat that.
I'll do it for a few times. For anyone also that wishes to call in, the number is 347-609-0911. That's 347-609-0911. In case we lose connection, Fritz. And then Jeff again had a great question. I don't think you got to hear it, but it's regarding your research work into the Bundy family and the Hinckley family. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I was wondering how you were able to connect all, I guess you could say, the lower people in this hierarchy to the higher ones in these families, and where did you go to find this research, and how were you able to put it all together?
Basically, I'm interpreting what you're asking is how did I find out all this information on the Illuminati? And I was using every possible source imaginable. First, we can start with I worked with a lot of program multiples. I have no idea how many people. I don't have an exact count. It was so hectic during 19, but there were many dozens of people that had been in the Illuminati that I touched bases with. Some, like Cisco, I spent years with, and I tried to learn from any source possible. I did thousands of hours of going through documents, all kinds of places. I traveled and went and visited places. I interviewed a lot. But one of the key things, too, that I would call people's attention to is there's a dynamic, the rich get richer and the poor get poor. And because I was putting out high-level information on the Illuminati, a lot of people came to me with their information. So I was information rich, and I continue getting more information rich. It's just like in this last week, there's been a number of insiders, including even today. There was an insider that sent me a whole package of information, and it says, keep this to yourself. But, it's documentation on stuff that's going on. And so I kept getting more information rich and more information rich. And then along with that comes the responsibility of weeding out what's legitimate and what's disinformation, or what sometimes people are giving you information that they believe is true, but they have been misled or they're confused about things. So it's not necessarily that they're trying to be dishonest, but you have to constantly do a weeding process. And that's the same thing that the intelligence agencies do, is they put a grade on all intelligence that comes in and says, this is very reliable, this is unreliable. And there were some things that came in about the Illuminati that I got lots and lots of information on, but I put up on the shelf. And in 1993, I wrote a book on the reptilians, and then I looked at the material.
Always when it's like getting really good.
I do have one more question that I would like to ask.
Yeah, as soon as he gets back, we lost his stream again. Incredible.
Well, if he calls in with the phone, I think we'll be okay.
I think he's going to do that. We'll be better off. But
I'll tell you, I got
he was
a
just
lot
about to
of
talk about
questions.
reptilians. That's hysterical. I mean,
I know, right?
oh my God. David Icke.
No, I think I added it the first time, but I'll say it again for people who maybe never heard me say it the first time. Like he was saying, you gotta look through things and weed through things. And when I was a skeptic at first with the Bloodlines book, because I've had it for years, I actually met someone in Connecticut, and I knew there was something up with her. And I actually brought her the book. And this lady's in her 60s and a well-to-do woman. And after a while, she started to tell me things. And her father was in the book, is actually in Fritz Springmeier's book. And after hearing her talk, I mean, Fritz in the book in the back, there's also the Bohemian Grove membership list, and her uncles and her family members were in it. And she started telling me things, and it's exactly what was in Fritz's book. And I was, not really like, shocked like I thought he was lying, but I mean, it really validated that, wow, like, some person I met is actually saying, yes, this is my family, and that's accurate.
Well, remember, Vinny, when we were doing the show with Fritz last time, we talked about Collinsville and the Collins family.
Yes, and
it's right
Collins
here in
big.
Satan's Kingdom, right here, like 5 minutes from my house.
I'm actually glad Harry asked that question about Todd. I did last time too, but Todd is a big one to me because the Collins family, and I still bring it up to my girlfriend and people who, with the movies, the soap operas, and Hunger Games and all this. This is Collins family. I mean, their names on everything.
That's true.
They are.
Let me give him a call again. I don't know. I don't know. He doesn't seem to be calling us back, so maybe I should add him to the call. Take the bull by the horns here. Hold on.
I think another interesting thing to point out is that, exposing the Illuminati, especially back in the day when he did, it's not a profitable enterprise. And, we know he got locked up for it. And, if they were using him, he would have changed his tune at some point in time. He gets out of he's still on probation. He's been, he said, right. Look, I'm not going to get engaged in any anti-government activity, but he's still speaking out. And I think that's a testament to his resolve. And he's not doing this for money. He's doing it because he truly believes it's the right thing to do. And it is.
Of course. And I think we got Fritz back,
guys.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay. Let's pray that this is the last time that happens. So we'll just continue on. This has never been so challenging. I mean, we had a couple of false starts the last time, but nothing like this.
If it happens again, Fritz, call us back with the phone number, okay?
Yeah, I wasn't able to hear the phone number, though. What I think said was 347-609-0901.
No, 0911. Like 9/11.
Oh, 9/11, okay.
Yeah, that's why it's there. 609. It's an easy one to remember. 347-609-0911. Okay. Let's just.
All right. Well,
let
me get to a question here, because honestly, Fritz, I've been waiting a long time as you specialize in mind control, and it happens to be my favorite topic, because it's something that when I first got into the truth movement, mind control was like something I didn't believe, I didn't want to believe, and then eventually I realized this is true, and it's not so much that a person is individually hypnotized the way it's depicted in order to lead people away from the truth, but that it's rolled out in mass. And so I'm also a Christian, and I've got one foot in the truth movement and one foot in the Christian community. And there's a juxtaposition there where your pastor's afraid to talk to you, and I ask him specifically, for instance, about spiritual wickedness in high places. Of course, the church has given him an alternative explanation for that. What would you say, as far as being a Christian and at the same time understanding how evil truly works? Because, my pastor every Sunday points at the congregation and says the evil is in your hearts. And as a truth activist, I see people literally being trained like dogs to commit evil. So, I mean, what would you say to your pastor, for instance?
Okay, I'm going to approach this maybe from a different angle, and that is I'm going to approach this showing people that the church is totally corrupt and totally apostatized. Almost all of these denominations are participating in the World Council of Churches. If you look at the World Council of Churches, you will see that they made back in the 1950s, they said the world should set the agenda for the World Council of Churches. And then if you look at the leadership of the World Council of Churches, they're totally, 33rd degree Freeman and the brother of the head of the CIA and blah, blah, blah.
Rockefeller.
And so, yeah, and you look at how that whole ecumenical movement started. It started with the FCCC, Federal Council of Churches of Christ, which got its origins with Rockefeller and Morgan money. And I exposed this in my Be Wise as Serpents book in chapter 2.7, where the chapter Councils of Heresy, where they created these. But I'm mentioning this because you can directly prove to yourself real quickly how these churches are part of the world system through just by virtue of the fact that they're participating with all of this. And then the next thing that you can see real quickly to show yourself how corrupt they are is they became a 921c3 tax-exempt corporation of the state. And back in 1990 or 91, I was shown the paperwork. I was flabbergasted. The paperwork you signed to become a corporation of the state says the attorney general of your state's the head of your church. So they've denied Christ right there. You could just go point by point like this through maybe a dozen things to show that these churches are totally off base as far as their spiritual foundation. And so they're lost out there in la la land. They're not the spiritual leadership that people think that they are. And in my Be Wise as Serpents book, I went denomination by denomination, including, later I went and did this with the Catholic Church, but I went denomination by denomination and showed how a lot of these denominations were created by Freemasons and have been controlled by Freemasons, who were their high-ranking pastors, and how the seminaries that these denominations have been controlled by people from the Skull and Bones and Freemasons and so forth. So, we're looking at a totally corrupt thing, and then they all get together in their local minister councils. And then there's even high-level meetings where the ministers get together and pledge to cover each other's backs from scandals. So the whole thing is totally corrupt. So they're not the spiritual leadership that they're pretending to be. And a person, unfortunately, is going to have to embark on their own spiritual journey, and they're going to have to use the Holy Spirit in Christ. So that's the first point that I would make, because people are turning to these big name pastors as if they're somebody who's going to tell them the truth. No, these people are, a lot of them have been blackmailed. And Cisco's father, Cisco was the lady that I brought out of the Illuminati. Her father had been Assemblies of God minister, and when what was the evangelist that had the scandal? I'm spacing off his name.
Which
Pardon
one?
Me? The Assembly of God evangelist that had
I have sinned. Jimmy Swaggart.
Jimmy Swaggart, right? Well, Jimmy
I have
Swaggart,
sinned.
Yeah. Well, when he went public and cried, the Assemblies of God headquarters, and somebody in headquarters got back with me on this. They said that after he made his confession, that there were 200 Assembly of God ministers that called headquarters and said, "I have the same problem."
Well.
And so people are turning to these people as if they're going to lead them, and they don't realize how corrupted and apostate these Christian leaders are. I went to different churches with evidence, documentation on Billy Graham, trying to get them not to support. These churches were giving millions of dollars to the Billy Graham crusade, and I was giving them documentation, and they weren't even interested. They weren't interested in the truth. So my point is that's where the churches are. They're apostate. They've covered their eyes and ears. They're no longer warning us. They're no longer protecting us. They're part of the problem,
Yes,
and that's just where it's at.
They're teaching people to lay down and accept it. That they can't help themselves. That someone else is going to come save them. And I just wanted to jump in because it reminded me of something I wanted to bring up, because before you were talking about, it's obvious that, and you said insiders telling you that they're going to destroy America, and hopefully we'll get into that more. But one of my theories, and I want to see if you'll agree, Fritz, is, to me, yes, I agree where America's being destroyed by design. And my understanding is that once America goes and they're no longer the superpower, that it's the real prophecy is about Israel then taking over. Is that something that maybe you heard, or am I off base here?
Did we lose
I think
Fritz?
We lost him. I think we lost him.
All right, I think he's got the number now, though. Okay, we did lose him. That was a great question. Yeah, that was a great question, Vinny. Here he is. Okay, let me wait. I got hold on. Let me get him. Fritz, okay, this should work out. You're on your mobile. Excellent. Okay.
Yes. Let's try this for a while.
Hey, it sounds compressed. You got a nice compressed sound too. It's good. All right, sounds good. Okay.
Okay, Fritz, I don't know if you heard my question, but I wanted to say that in my research, the real prophecy is like where America is going to go down, just like you were saying. And this is by design. It's not by accident. But the thing that I don't really hear people talking about, and I want to know what you think about this, is that Israel is then the superpower that's going to be like the center for the one world government. And they go and they conquer the Muslims. And that's the prophecy that to my understanding. Would you say that's correct?
There are different scenarios, and when it comes to biblical prophecy, you're expressing this in terms of biblical prophecy. There's the possibility that is biblical prophecy. I wouldn't say that it isn't. My experience with trying to understand biblical prophecy is like hindsight is a lot better than foresight. It's like when Christ applied a lot of prophecies to himself. If you went back to the Old Testament and read those scriptures that he applies to himself, you would not just naturally say, "Oh, this is a messianic prophecy that's talking about Christ." You would just read it as a Bible verse. but then after the fact, you can come back and say, oh yeah, okay, I see. So I'm reluctant to be 100% adamant about something that's in the scriptures and say this is the way it's going to happen, because we had Bible scholars back in Christ's day, and they were far better students probably of the Bible than I, and they were coming up with mistakes themselves. So scriptures are that way. They're really hard sometimes to nail down, and I think that there's a reason for that, and that is if it was real obvious, then the enemy would be able to figure it out. Christ said, I speak in parables so that they won't know the truth. And Satan didn't realize when he was killing Christ that he was creating his biggest defeat. I'm what I'm saying is that's a possibility. That's one of the scenarios that could happen. But it could very well be another scenario.
Okay.
I got one more question.
No, Jeff, I think, had a question he wanted to. Say,
Yeah.
Jeff? Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. In reading your book, you connected all of these families together, and the other day it did something that was on my mind, and I finally come across it on the internet that, it's about the Titanic. Have you ever done any research and connected the possibility that the Titanic was actually sunk to basically murder people that were getting in the way of some of these other power brokers in the world? Have you ever done any research into that?
Well, I know that theory has been put forth. From what I have seen, I don't subscribe to that. There was Colonel Astor was on the Titanic, and he actually came out having good reports of the way he behaved, although some of the elite that were on the Titanic acted very selfishly. But no, in short, I'm familiar to some degree with that theory, but I don't subscribe to it.
Mm-hmm. I heard about that too. That it was a Masonic thing. That what's his name was given an order. Captain Smith had the person that actually crashed the ship was a Mason, and he was given an order. And again, it was that's what I read about it. And the order was to do that because technically, if they had hit the iceberg, it would have been okay, but he didn't just hit the iceberg. He sort of tried not to hit the iceberg. And
well, that's true. The fact that and there's a whole bunch of lessons that could be learned from that. I mean, on one level, I always warn people that what we fear, we draw what we fear to us. And because they feared the iceberg and they tried to avoid it, they actually sheared the side of the ship, where if they had hit it straight on, it would have just hit the bow, it would have bounced off and nothing would have happened. But instead, because they sheared the side and they ran this shear line all the way back, which hit several watertight compartments instead of just one, it overwhelmed the ability of the ship to stay afloat. Yeah, so what they feared came true instead of just... But the idea that was done intentionally, I don't know.
I know there is a scuttlebutt about it, though. There really is out there. I've read it too.
Yeah, I know that people say that, but then who's to say that it would have come off like that? I mean, nobody had ever tested the ship to who can say what the iceberg that's underneath the water, who can really see what's underneath the water? Who can say surety. Okay, I'm going to go hit this iceberg, and I'm going to try to avoid it and sink a ship. That's a little far fetched. Like, I'm going to drive out into the country, and I'm going to see a duck and run over it. You know, I mean, are you going to see a duck? You know, are you actually going to be able to run over it? And is it going to stay there for you to run over it? That's a little far fetched for me. You know, and I don't know. What I see happen a lot of times in the truth movement is that once people start doubting everything, they don't draw lines. They just start doubting everything. Like, there's a lot of people that think that I'm not me. I'm dead. You know, and the truth movement here in Portland, some of these people, you know, even though they were seeing me face to face, they weren't sure it was me. You know.
Oh boy!
Well, come on, people! You got to have a balance here. You can't doubt everything in life, or you just spin off into craziness.
Agreed.
I don't know. Like I say, when I've seen what they're saying along that line, it doesn't strike me as
it's just that there happen to be some wealthy people on that boat, and that's the truth. You know, there was a lot of riches on that boat that went down. You know, and that's the truth.
Yeah, well, it was the star ship, you know, in the world. It was the thing, and you know how the elite like to be participating with something prestigious. The maiden voyage of the Titanic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's perfect.
Well, if I could shift things...
Yeah, I think Harry wants to shift things and... Good.
Right. I know that in the past, Fritz, you've talked a lot about dissociative identity disorder being something that they induce. And personally, I have epilepsy, and I've been on and off a lot of medications over the years, and I can't help but look at the side effects of these, the supposed side effects. And depersonalization is on there. And so many of the medications that are being advertised on television have this disassociation, you know, as a side effect. And I see, you know, the pharmaceutical industry as just out and out sorcery. And I'm wondering if now that big pharma is becoming such a big thing, if you see a link between them, you know, creating this disorder in so many people and their ability to control the masses.
Oh, you're 100% right on. You're 100% right on. It's very detailed. It's being very skillfully done.
It's insidious.
And it's all it's insidious, and it's not happening by chance. They know exactly. They have detailed plans on this, and it's not by accident that Ritalин's being given to a high percentage of the kids. It's not by accident that they're giving Prozac out to a lot of people. I had a friend who he went to the doctor, and the doctor gave him Prozac to calm him down. He comes back home. I happen to be there when he gets home, and he goes, "Oh, the doctor gave me Prozac." I said, "Have you looked at the side effects of that?" And he goes, "No." I said, "Could you get me the paperwork?" So he went to the trouble to get the paperwork, and I said, "Let me read these to you, Eric." So I started reading. There was a whole page of side effects. By the time I was done, he went and threw it away.
Right.
He was like, he realized that a whole page of evil side effects is worse than the problem he had. Right. And you know, guys, one of the things that I came to realize when I was working with people in the Illuminati, and I would also have insiders like scientists and stuff talk to me. I came to realize, because I would just get glimpses. I mean, I wouldn't get the whole panorama, but I would just get glimpses. At this moment, I would come to realize that what the Illuminati knew was like 1,000 times deeper than what the public knew on a subject. Over here, 10,000 times deeper than what we knew. What I realized is what they put out as the level of human knowledge is a drop in the bucket from what they know. And they know precisely, they have some incredible minds working on these agendas on how to manipulate our food supply, how to manipulate us through drugs, and these things have been planned too. I would get glimpses of the way this agenda was coming together, and it was actually, wow, it was mind-boggling. And it's mind-boggling. And in the 1990s, I had so much coming at me. I had the whole Illuminati apparatus making my life crazy, and trying to help these people that were trying to get out of the Illuminati, trying to do research. It was nuts, absolutely nuts. It was a vacation to go to prison. And yeah, it really was. I mean, that was like my first reaction when I was there is, oh, like, wow, I'm getting a little bit of peace and quiet for once, because it's just been, my life's just been on this merry-go-round. But there was so much coming at me and so much that I was uncovering and on that I really never, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that I never had time to put together. I mean, I would be aware of it, but I can say that, from what I saw, you're right on track there. That the pharmaceuticals, they're definitely connected to Satanism, witchcraft. They're definitely
alchemy. It's alchemy,
big time to this. Yeah, to this agenda, this genocidal agenda to not only to manipulate and control us, but also to weaken us and to kill us.
Yeah, that's what all the zombie stuff is about. It's the obvious, like, all the zombie movies is showing what the people have become, from all the drugs and the food. And that's why it's zombie everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zombies and vampires. It's crazy. And reality shows. That's television.
Well, let me ask you this, Fritz, because you've been through a lot, obviously, and you started out pretty young and really dug into this stuff, and of course you got locked up for it. We know others who, like Bill Cooper, who's gone now, and I just find it interesting because as I'm involved in these things too, honestly, sometimes I'm running the broadcast, which again, it's called Death to the New World Order, and I'm like, why am I still doing this? Why haven't I been shot yet? Or, what's going on here with the mouse game where evil can't just rub you out most of the time? It has to basically trick you or deceive you into self-destructing. That's kind of the way I see what's been going on. And we know, for instance, really, I liken it to your vampire lore, where the evil, the vampire, cannot come into your home unless you invite it. Is there something here where evil almost has a code of conduct? It has ethics.
I don't. Well, evil has a code of conduct. Well, there are certain limitations to evil. You have. We could discuss several of them. One is a self-imposed limitation. The Illuminati, because they are very much into control, do not allow their members just to run rampant killing people. If
Obviously,
you want to kill someone, like let's say you want to put a hit on someone, you have to go before a council, and you have to get permission from this council to have someone assassinated. So it's just not done randomly. Otherwise, it would be chaos. And you have to understand that Satan rules with an iron fist. It may appear as chaos to us, but once you start seeing the control mechanisms, you realize things are very tightly controlled. So they're just not. Somebody had given me feedback, for instance, that there was a Masonic meeting where they discussed me and what to do with me, and I'm sure that there's been Illuminati meetings too. But they have their own criteria as to what will be allowed and which way they approach it. Now, for some of us, it's actually more beneficial for them to destroy our reputation. They have destroyed my reputation entirely, except for people who understand what I've done and ignore what people, ignore the lies about
the COINTELPRO.
But yeah, right. But if you go on the internet and read some of the stuff about me, you immediately dismiss me. Oh, well, that Fritz Springmeier, he's this, and this. They don't realize that, like, on Wikipedia, the Wikipedia quotes news articles that are just pure baloney, but because they're quoting a news article, well, supposedly that becomes truth, And when I got out and tried to change Wikipedia, they wouldn't take the changes, even though it was me trying to do it, and someone else tried to help me, and they wouldn't take the changes and correct the mistakes. So the point is like with you, like with me, if they can discredit us, that does them a lot more benefit than if they just assassinated us. Another thing too is I'm a firm believer in God, and there's some things sometimes when there were attempts on my life made, and the only way that I can figure out that I walked through it unscathed was that I was divinely protected. And and that's entirely, man does not control God. God's in control of whatever he wants to do. So, if he wants to protect me, great. That's a nice choice. So there's that aspect that Satan can't run amok. But if we look at the scriptures and the history of the scriptures, typically God will place boundaries on Satan and say, okay, like with Job, you can go this far, but you can't touch his life. But typically, Satan and the demons will try to go over what their limits are. It's just like I noticed,
like Congress.
When you go into court, the police and the justice system, if they got you dead to rights, instead of sticking with the truth, they will still exaggerate and lie. It blows my mind how these people are so used to exaggerating and lying that they can't stick with the truth. So they will go past their limits. As to another reason why we're permitted to do what we are is, quite frankly, I began to realize they consider us all a joke. We're going to get our comeuppance, They figure, let them play their silly games. They're not going to do anything to our power. And if you know that they have created the system, and the enormous power that they have, we're almost a joke to them, especially with their ego. You have to understand that these people have incredible egos. So sometimes I thought that I was actually making a dent against them, that I was actually accomplishing things, and I came to realize that the people I thought I was doing something against didn't even acknowledge that I had affected them.
Yeah, it didn't even make them flinch.
Me up. Pardon me?
It didn't make them flinch.
Well, arrogance will end up being their weakness. The arrogance they have will end up being their weakness in the end.
Oh, yeah, exactly. They got the same kind of arrogance that Satan has, who's their father. And it blinds them. Their pride blinds them. But they consider it a joke. And, but when they do move, whoa, sometimes they've come in and they blindside you. So don't have pride yourself that you're invulnerable. None of us are invincible. If it wasn't for God's help, they'd have sunk me. There's been so many times where I was basically in what looked like an impossible situation.
Hello.
We've got another caller. Who's calling?
Yes, this is Jay. I would like Fritz to speak on the alien inception with this question.
This is Jay. He's asking about the alien agenda.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, you got a lot of background noise there. Let Fritz answer, but just try to mute yourself there a little bit. All right. Go ahead, Fritz.
I'll turn it down.
Okay. Go ahead, Fritz.
Okay, well, this will give me an opportunity to pick up the thread that I was disconnected from before, where I was talking about this book that I wrote on the reptilians. I put the whole information, I put this book up on the shelf. I never gave it to the public. But I noticed a couple years later that David Icke started coming out with this type of material and ran with it. They definitely have a program to use the concept of aliens. They have been promoting the idea that there are aliens and that the aliens are advanced races and that the aliens could help us. And again, this is one of these scenarios that they might play, but I can't say 100% that they will play this card, but it's definitely a card that they have in their hand. And the way it may come about, one scenario that might happen is people are expecting the New World Order to be something terrible. Of course, we already have the World Order. There's nothing new about it. It's in existence right now. But another phase of it, let's say. So people are expecting this next phase to be really horrible. But what might happen is we might get an enlightened group of so-called aliens come, and things will be so wonderful and blissful that it will be in a totally different direction than people are expecting, and their guard will be down. And so then they will bring in things as they want, and then slowly Satan will take off his mask. Because whatever you want to call these so-called aliens, I have plenty of testimony and evidence that they're evil. So all I would say is the bottom line is don't trust anything that's alien, that's not human.
Right.
And
well, they even make movies about that. I'm sorry.
They made movies which way?
No, they make movies about it, like the aliens. It's all about aliens and zombies. Alien movies, zombie movies,
Well, I always remember William Cooper talking about how, like, Reagan and everybody, they would talk about, imagine if we were opposed by an outside threat, how the world would come together. So that could be another tool in bringing about the world to accept a one-world government to unite against aliens.
Right. It could be that scenario, or they could do another take off of that, which is even more insidious, and that is we're expecting an alien invasion, and then we get a benevolent group of aliens to actually help us create a utopia. and that would totally take everybody by surprise, and discard. That would unguard everybody, because most people are like, they're on Alex Jones's wavelength. Oh, this New World Order is going to be terrible, and then when it actually comes, it's not terrible, and so they're like, well, maybe what? They're like confused, you know?
Yeah, that definitely. It's a psyop. It's a good psyop, you know.
Yeah, they always come as the savior, and not an axe murderer.
That's true.
All right, let me get another question in here, Fritz. I mean, I do a lot of thinking about this stuff, so I hope my questions aren't a little too deep. But you know, again, as a Christian, I look at how God, for instance, required the sacrifice of His Son. 9/11, which I believe was a ritual human sacrifice, and so it appears to me that the bad guys are also carrying out ritual sacrifices, and I'm wondering, why are the bad guys carrying out ritual human sacrifices, and to what God or to what entity? I mean, what is really going on here? What's the big picture?
Wow, that is kind of a deep question, and I'm rolling around in my brain how to make a succinct answer that doesn't lose our listeners. Well, let's go back to Abraham, because recently I had a man confront me, and he said that he does not believe in Christianity or God because Abraham was doing this horrendous thing of sacrificing his son. There's a lot of confusion or lack of understanding about what happened with Isaac being tied up to be the sacrifice. First, God had specifically told Abraham, he had made it very clear that Isaac was going to be used to create many, many descendants. So Abraham knew that no matter what happened, somehow God was going to bring many children and descendants through Isaac. So he knew that even if Isaac did die, that Isaac would be resurrected, and that's been the Israelites have always, you know, the rabbis have always understood that Abraham knew that somehow it was going to turn out okay. And then also, if you look at the wording there, Abraham was telling Isaac, he said, you're going to be the sacrifice maybe, but God will probably come up with the sacrifice himself, will provide it. So he somehow
provided the land, yeah. Go ahead.
That he would provide the sacrifice in the end if he was willing just to follow orders. Sometimes in life, we know that, okay, somebody asks us to do something because they want to see if we'll do it, but that they're not going to allow us to go ahead and do it. You know, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but maybe you can think of it yourself. Maybe your wife is just trying to test you, or your girlfriend is just trying to test you. So Abraham knew that there was a test involved, and he had to be faithful and loyal, and yet somehow God was going to work this out where it would be okay. So there wasn't an evil intent to kill his son. So people that think that what happened there with Abraham and Isaac was this dark scenario where Abraham was the Satanist who wanted to kill his son. No. That was not what we have going on. That is totally different than 9/11, where these people just callously sacrificed these people to their agenda, to Satan, and blah, blah, blah. And it was a cult. I gave a talk on the 10th anniversary of 9/11 where I went into the occult connections behind 9/11. That was here. It's up on YouTube. The 9/11 Truth group here Portland asked me to speak on the occult connections symbology of 9/11, and in fact, there are so many that I ended up realizing that I had like a 5-hour talk that I was trying to condense down into a 1-hour talk. So yeah, that's a whole different. These people are Luciferians, Satanists. They're sacrificing, and why do they sacrifice? It goes back to witchcraft and the power that they think that gives them, and it's an ancient idea. You go back to the Middle East, and you'll find many archaeological sites where thousands of babies were sacrificed. It's something that's been going on for a long time. It's nothing new. Anyway, that's the answer in short.
Well, I mean, I got to ask a follow-up. Do they draw any power from it? Did they get any power from 9/11, for instance, or are they just doing this in vain?
Yes, they do get power from it. It goes back to how to make okay. I'm going to use an example to kind of show. If you go to the Word of God, it says that there's generational curses, and it says that if you do some sins, that God's going to curse that family line for 3 generations. But it says if a father commits incest with his little daughter, pedophilia, the man rapes his little girl or his little boy, that sin of incest, it says in the scriptures, carries a 10-generation curse. Okay, well, if Satan is trying to curse a family line so that they're drawn into his power, that's the best way he can do it. That's why it's standard operating procedure for fathers in the Illuminati to sexually molest their daughters, is because they're creating this negative spiritual dynamic. So when you do these, when you murder someone, when you commit incest, you're creating negative spiritual energy. And that energy, that negative energy, is a power. It's not a positive power.
Yeah.
It's sort of like electricity, having a positive or a negative flow to things. For those of us that see love and good as genuine power, how to say it? The best way to describe it would be, if anybody wants a clear answer to this, read the book The Great Divorce, where a lie exists, but a lie is nothing. Falsehood exists, but falsehood is nothing. In other words, Satan's power is a mirage, but it exists.
Sort of like the Federal Reserve. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sort of like our money. Our money is just a piece of paper, but it has power, but it's not real power. It's a fake power. It's so by doing the witches actually believe that by sacrificing people, they actually cause the seasons to happen. They're bringing in the year. They bring in the spring. They believe that if they didn't sacrifice people, that we would stop having seasons. They actually, in their minds, believe that.
Would you say that that's just paganism, though? Like the old paganism? Like, isn't this what paganism's about? Like Mother Gaia and giving blood to the earth? Would you say that?
Oh, yeah. Paganism is all derived from Satan. And I know pagans say, well, we were the original religion and Christianity came after us. But I would beg to differ with that. I think archaeology will prove that Christianity, or not what's called Christianity, but faith in God, like the faith of Abraham. The faith of Abraham pre-existed these pagan religions. These pagan religions were created through demons operating on behalf of Satan. And, there is a creator. There is one good mastermind behind this world. And to me, that seems obvious unless your mind has been blinded, that there's a good, benevolent God that has created this beautiful planet.
And that is the thing. So many people, Fritz, my whole life I hear so many people talk about how horrible life is, but it's really not this planet or life. Life really is beautiful. It's the evil and corrupted people that make it so hard for the rest of us. But the Creator did create a beautiful place for us, and I'm someone who constantly just seeing birds fly and trees and flowers, and just always impressed and very happy with what we were given.
Yeah, exactly. I think today of how I was looking out my back plate glass door, and there was a bird here in the middle of winter hopping around, and I was just admiring watching this bird. We have so much beauty around us in such an awesome world, and God has given us all of the natural ingredients for health. And the only reason we're having so much problem with cancer and disease and debilitating sicknesses and diseases is because these people that are running things know exactly what they're doing, and they're intentionally doing it.
Absolutely.
It's so diabolical.
It really is.
And they've mind controlled everybody into unhealthy, unstable lives.
But listen, not only that, they'll say take Orencia. You can get lymphoma, but take it. Take Lyrica. You can get cancer, but take it. Take these drugs, even though they can give you cancer. Don't worry about it. Then we'll give you some radiation and some chemo and finish you off, hospice you and drip you.
That reminds me of when I was in prison, guys. When I was in prison, they gave me something for my high blood pressure, and I never take anything without reading the contrainterventions. I had a couple big medical reference books. One that the physician's desk reference book was what I had. That lists all of the pills and side effects and everything. So I read up on what they had given me, and it said, don't take such and such, or it'll shut your liver and your and your kidneys down. So then I went back, and he was the inmates called him the eye doctor because he was Vietnamese. He could barely speak English, and I don't know where he became a doctor, but he used to say, "I doctor, you patient."
Oh, God.
And so the inmates called him the eye doctor because he would say, "I doctor, you patient."
I doctor, you patient.
So he prescribes this medicine that I knew would kill me. And I go, whoa, I'm not taking that because that'll shut my liver and kidneys down. And you know what he said? He goes, oh, don't worry about that. We will test you in a month to see how you're doing.
Oh, God, man, it's a eugenics world. It's a depopulation, agenda.
So what do you see as happening in the near future with all of this going on, Fritz?
I see some catastrophic times for the United States. I think that what happened with Hurricane Sandy is just gives you a preview of how mean and nasty these people want to get. Now, I can't say anything for sure about Sandy's behavior. I can't, because I wasn't sitting there in the control room where, I wasn't up there where HARP sat, or, I didn't have my hands on the controls of HARP, or that I haven't seen the specific paperwork. But Sandy sure is suspicious to me.
Yeah.
And it sure is consistent with the kind of things that they were saying that they wanted to do. And so I say that this is just a preview of the mean, nasty things that they have in store for us. They want to trash our U.S. economy, trash our dollar, and I think we'll go into hyperinflation where we'll, I think in a couple years, we'll be into, the kind of inflation where if something costs $10 at the beginning of the year, it'll be $20 by the end of the year. And then the next year it'll be $40. The next year, $80. And that may not seem that extravagant, but if you go from $20 to $80 in 3 years, it's going to wipe us out.
Now, on one of your, I think on your Facebook page, you were talking also about a food shortage. Can you get into that?
Yeah, something really bizarre has happened. We have had an incredible number of bees. The majority of bees around the world have died. And
yes.
It's not just in North America, it's in Europe and Asia. Well, I was asking my Facebook friends if anybody had come across any connection between the chemtrails and these bees dying, because something's being done to kill the bees, and it's the weak link in the food production that nobody ever thinks about. The bees are out there pollinating all of the food things, like tomatoes. We, for a number of years here in Oregon, we've had tomato farms that had wonderful tomato plants, but they don't get any tomatoes because there's no bees to pollinate the tomato plant. People don't realize that the bees are the missing link that we just take for granted. And right now, farmers that are trying to produce things are having to rent bees. They're shifting bee supplies, moving them across the country. They'll take them here and then move them here and then here, so that they're trying to come up with an emergency method of pollinating these plants. But we've got a real problem coming up, and if we have inflation hit as the food supply is shrinking, that's going to be a double whammy.
Wow. We got another caller here. Hold on. Okay, you're on the air. Who's this? Oh, is this Jay again?
Jay again.
Jay.
I was going to talk about the chemtrails. They are spraying. They do watershed enhancement here in the Sierras in California, and we spray almost every single day. I live right next to a ski resort, so it's pretty obvious. And you can taste it in the air when they spray. There's a giant Tesla type array in the mid-desert in between the Sierra and San Diego. You can drive down the 395, you can see it. It's a giant Tesla tower. They have a couple other arrays, and they're manipulating the clouds. They're seeding the clouds.
Wow. And this is down in this is Southern California?
I'm in Central California right now, but if you go from Southern California up to 395 towards the Sierras,
right.
They have two or three different arrays out there, and you can see in the day, the desert is usually clear out. You can see the planes going over, and they leave long trails. They checker the entire sky out almost every single day.
Well, they do that here in Connecticut too. It's a beautiful day. I'm looking out the window, clear blue sky. Then you start seeing the planes fly by. You see it right in front of my eyes. 2 hours later, the sky is full of clouds, phony clouds. Those chemtrails. Yeah, they spread out. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Well, what I say is
they do the same
from
thing
what
here,
read,
checkerboard grid.
Checkerboard grid. That's right. What they do. Yeah.
So from what I've read, they're using these arrays, these electromagnetic arrays, to suspend the particulate in the air. So they spray it way up high, and then they can create patterns with the waves from the towers.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about, if you get into the Tesla technology, like it sounds like you do, a lot of people talk about the solar waves and the ELF waves being even more dangerous than the chemtrails themselves. and there's a lot to look into with what you're saying, and it's called scalar waves.
Scalar waves.
Is it Scholar or Scalar?
Scalar.
Yeah.
Yeah, scalar. I say everything wrong.
So basically, what I was saying is the chemtrails that they're spraying in these arrays are having some type of effect on the wildlife because you can physically see it. The trees are more brittle. There's less microbial life, microbial flora. Because of this, it's noticeable. And if you look, the government site even has a PDF that's available where they describe and show the different regions of the watershed enhancement. So it's a program that they're running. They just don't want to talk about it. But there was an article that came out recently, I believe it was somewhere in the UK, where they announced that they were permanently going to enhance the watershed for the ski resorts there, and they opened it up and just said we're doing it.
You know what this is equivalent to? We as the public are down here on the ground, and it's like they're urinating on us.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mind-boggling. They've been doing this for how many years? For decades.
Oh, almost 2 decades. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of interesting because the only time I see a blue sky anymore is when I'm playing the video game Call of Duty. And every time I play that level and I see the blue sky, it just reminds me of my childhood when there used to be a blue sky.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's unbelievable what there are still clouds, but and then once in a while you'll actually see real clouds and you can identify them because they look so different than the chemtrails, They're like puffy and round and sort of the right way to, they're not like lines that spread out, It's terrible. It's terrible.
Well, I was pointing it out today to a few people near the mountain. You can see there's 3 or 4 planes in the air.
Oh, you see them?
All the way from one end of the sky to the other. You can see it. It's obvious.
The other day I saw 5 of them flying at the same time. 5 planes chemtrailing at the same time over Connecticut, over Cromwell, Connecticut. That's
and there's no way these are regular flight paths. There's
no way.
There's that much commercial traffic.
And they're silent. You don't hear them. They don't make a sound. If you're out there and you're out there, you don't hear them. They're silent. They're stealth. It's true. Because then you can hear a plane because I'm not far from Bradley Airport, and you can hear the planes when it's a plane, but the chemtrail planes you never hear them. It's true. Listen for a plane. Listen next time.
They're also very high up, and I believe they're Air Force, not commercial.
Yeah, I think it is. I think you're right about that. It's Evergreen Air. If my research is correct, it's a CIA operation.
Well, Evergreen is actually.
Yeah, they're not all Air Force.
Wait 1 second. What was that, Fritz?
Well, they're not all Air Force. There was one small plane that happened to come up behind one of these planes that was spraying, and you could see the chemtrails coming out of the nozzles in the wing, and then photographed this. And then when the plane realized it was on camera, it shut it off. So you can see the chemtrails stop all of a sudden coming out of the wings. But this was not an Air Force craft. It was some commercial craft.
Yeah, probably a Boeing plane.
So Evergreen is a facility that services the ChemSpring planes?
Yeah,
they
Evergreen Air.
Work in the maintenance?
Evergreen Air, yeah, they're hangars. Yeah, they're. In fact, Vinny, you know Ronnie, right, from Connecticut Skywatch?
Yeah.
She uncovered some stuff that was going on at which airport was it? Where there were planes at Oxford Airport, and they were after her. She sort of like dropped off the map. She got scared away. Have you heard from her any recently?
No, no. The last time I talked to Ronnie is when I joined her to go to that school about the Agenda 21 meeting, and me and her stood there and handed out information to the people.
Yeah,
And that was a while ago.
She got a little freaked out, I think, and took a hiatus. Anyway, but yeah, she had gotten some information and was making some heat and noise about, and she actually had got a dog because of it, because somebody like came up to her and actually physically approached her, and she freaked out, told her to stop doing what she was doing, and scared her. So, but Oxford Airport, yeah. So there's another that would make sense, because their planes are all over Connecticut, and they're not landing at Bradley. So I don't know.
For the last two seasons, I was in Tahoe, and they do the exact same spraying over the Tahoe Basin there. Here is obviously, this is a major watershed, and Tahoe is obviously another major watershed, but I believe that they're spraying the entire Sierra. But it's amazing to see how many people don't even look up at the sky.
Yeah, they don't notice it.
Blatantly.
It's so obvious.
You've got a whole ski resort full of people, and they have no clue that they're spraying at all. And I had a few friends up there that I had repeatedly brought it up. I would point it out. I'd say, look, that's not natural. And it took a long time before they realized it's not natural. And I think it was actually spawned one time. They went over, and I was pointing it out to the people on the mountain. And something about the orographics of the mountain, it was very dry in the air, but the actual trail came down from the sky very quickly. You could see it descending like it was coming towards the mountain because there was no moisture, and it fell all the way to the mountain, and almost every single person I know that was there on the mountain that day or worked the mountain got sick for about a week with a respiratory cold.
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. It's bad stuff, Jay, bad stuff. Well, listen, Fritz, you have any closing thoughts, since we're just about at the end of the hour here, the second hour? Anything you'd like to leave with the people?
Wow, this interview has gone very quickly, guys.
Well, can you do more?
You can.
I want to leave something positive with the people. I want to tell the people out there that are listening that over the years I have seen a lot of suppressed technology and a lot of supplemental herbal remedies and a lot of things that are very positive in a very we've got answers there, people. There are answers to humanity's problems. They're just laying there. There are scientists that every now and then talk to me about how some of their discoveries are being suppressed. These things are there, and humanity could pull ourselves out of our problems and solve a lot of our situations very easily. And so I would encourage people to have a positive attitude towards life. I would encourage them to step forward and do noble deeds, do something noble to help the situation. And I don't mean just helping an old grandmother across the street. I mean something really significant, something on the magnitude of like climbing Mount Everest, something that's really, really powerfully beneficial for humanity. And anybody can do a noble deed. But step up and do your part. And also know that if each one of us took care of our own backyard, that everything would take care of itself to some degree. So move forward, enjoy life. Don't let the negative things that they're doing detract us from realizing that there are a lot of positive solutions out there. And also, don't allow it to prevent you to enjoy life. Because God came, Christ said that He came to give us life and life more abundantly. He doesn't want us to throw that away just because of these people. These people would like to make life miserable for us, well, don't let them. Continue to enjoy life, and don't let them steal your joy. Don't let them get you down. I guess that's what I would leave with the listeners.
That's great. Harry, you have any closing comments or anything, any other questions you'd like to ask Fritz before we go off?
Well, I mean, I'd really like to just thank you, Fritz, for coming on the network. I mean, you've dedicated your life, you've wrote the books, you've literally done the time for your good work trying to help humanity. And I would just ask one more thing. I mean, you've stated a long time ago that you believe that once people started understanding what was going on, that the solutions would just start appearing. And I would just ask you, since you stated that so long ago, do you see solutions coming on the horizon, and what would you point out as some answers for people?
The solutions are there. The solutions are there. Last December, a year ago, for instance, I went down to Southern Oregon, and I met with young people that have been doing, they're actually, this is engineering research, where they have I'm spacing off the word, it went right in my, the self-perpetuating motion machines that will continually produce energy. I have seen these solutions, they're there. And just for instance, recently I came across a very powerful product called WOW. It's a combination of a whole bunch of anti-inflammatories. And just to mention one testimonial, this guy had gone all kinds of, he was a vet, he had gone through all kinds of suffering and surgery and stuff at the VA hospital and everything. He took this WOW and he just quit the doctors entirely, because he said if there's not a problem, don't try to fix it. And this is just using natural ingredients out there. So these things are there. They're around us, and we just need to turn our attention to seeing them, and then we're going to have to bring these things into our life on our own, because the system is suppressing them. I had a friend who lived with down in Costa Rica with he was an Amishman, and there was a Amish settlement down in Costa Rica, and he learned from the Indians all these herbal remedies. And when he was the type of Amish that uses modern, uses telephones and so forth. When he moved back to the United States, people would call him to learn these herbal remedies that the Indians had taught him. And as soon as the system found out that he was giving that kind of friendly advice to people, they told him that they would send him to prison if he kept telling people over the phone how to take care of their health problems with herbs. That's the kind of fascist America that we live in.
It is.
That was not the country that the founders wrote about when they established the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. When you can't tell someone, oh, hey, take some cayenne pepper without fear of being sent to prison, these solutions are right there, people, and they're being suppressed. I just want to make people aware of it.
Absolutely. Vinny, you got any closing comments for Fritz or questions?
Yeah, just like Harry, thank you, Fritz. It's always great to talk to you. The only thing I can think of to bring up is a few months ago when we were talking and about the award you got. I know you were proud, and I was proud for you. And for people who don't know, can you mention the award you won?
Yeah, it's probably the thing that I'll use the word proud. The thing that the award that excites me the most. The Teach Peace Foundation, which is www.teachpeace.com, is their site, and they awarded me an incredible award for what I have done for world peace, and that meant so much to me because I have tried to further the cause of peace and love, and that's something that I was surprised that someone had even recognized, that somebody had even taken notice, and they sent me the award, but they haven't presented it in person, and that we're still discussing. It's still up for discussion as to when and where the formal presentation will be done. But anyway, yeah, thanks for commenting on that. It's always nice for any of us to see our work appreciated.
Yes, and I always tell you I'm a big fan, Fritz, and I can't wait for the new book to come out. And always be waiting to hear from you again.
Yes, Fritz. Well,
Great.
Of course,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, and looking forward to another interview down the road. And thanks again for your time and your insight. And we'll speak again, my good friend.
Okay, it's been my pleasure, Howard. Thank you.
Thank you, Fritz. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And stay tuned for more truth on truthbroadcastnetwork.com. Thank you, Harry. Thanks, Vinny. Thanks, Fritz. Thanks to, of course, Jeff Watala and Jay, who called in before. Death to the New World Order. Good night. Yeah, Fritz, you dropped down.